Well, I don't know. I just think, why is there such a rush, Jim? Why does it have to be done in March 14th? Could you answer that one?
Well, there's steps that NOACA has to go through.
Yeah.
They have, excuse me, Bob. They have I believe it's an environmental committee that's scheduled to meet on the 19th of March, and they set their agenda on the 12th. And if that meeting that has to be done, it has to be reviewed by the environmental committee before the full board can accept it, which won't be until their regular meeting, second Friday in April. So if we don't make the environmental committee meeting, then there's either got to be some special committee meeting at some point or another delay until the next regularly scheduled environmental committee meeting, as I understand NOACA's process.
And on your behalf, and you can say this clearer than I can, is that this was thrown as a curveball to Lorain also.
Well, it's a bit of a surprise to us because the county sanitary engineer sits on our board, voted to, along with the rest of the board, to proceed back last summer. I don't have the dates in front of me right now, but we considered this a report of the executive committee in May, and I believe it was in July that the full board voted to tell the engineer to proceed with developing this preliminary plan, and Mr. Carney sat on our board and voted in favor of both of those actions. And if he had concerns about this, I recognize he says we listen to every member of the board and their concerns, and it's certainly an issue that we'll consider. I think Mary Jo had an excellent comment, though, that nobody is anxious to levy these fees on anybody. I'm a farmer. I value the land as much as anybody in this room, I'd venture to say. I'm not a big fan of sewers, but there's some responsibility that needs to be considered. This is an issue that cannot be put off forever. Every septic system in this county by Ohio law and by the county health department is considered a temporary system. And we know that they're not all doing the job, and there's going to be more pressure in the near future on additional growth in these areas. This isn't a perfect plan at this point in time. We recognize that. Didn't try and characterize it as perfect at this point. But I think there needs to be at some point some responsible action taken to take care of a situation that is in existence and not good now and can only get worse. But we'll consider anything that is recommended and try and take the appropriate action.
Thanks, Jim.
I still think that this board doesn't have a responsibility to take a position. I don't think we even have the authority to take the position. That's what concerns me. What good is it taking a position when it has to go before NOACA and they make the final decision? I mean, we can maybe persuade them, or I don't know.
No, I think this is basically just a blessing. They want a blessing from the commissioners. Is the way I got it.
But
that's pretty much all I see here.
That's unfair.
Well, that's life.
I mean, what gives us the right to bless this
I
when
agree.
we have no right to say
I agree.
anything else about it?
I agree.
Yes, it was amazing that somebody said only one person or two person had a say in the matter of these sewers. And yet, my question is, it has to do with the ACLU and Mr. Innes. Is having a position on NOACA and voting on one of these issues a conflict of interest?
No, because the positions on NOACA are as a representative. NOACA is made up of entities who are there by virtue of their position. It's made up almost entirely representative from cities, villages, townships, and the very essence of the thing is to have a regional entity whereby you get the input and voice from the individual entities. Mrs. Blair serves on that committee not as Mrs. Blair citizen. She serves on that as a representative of this county. So by the very the rules of that organization. They are there to voice the opinions and desires of their individual jurisdictions.
I'd like to just piggyback a little bit on that for the benefit of those who don't know. There are 38 members, voting members on NOACA's governing board, of which Lorain County has 7 positions.
I'm David Ashenhurst, and I think this has been a great discussion today. And I think all of the comments about perhaps doing a survey of incorporating the engineers' comments, I think all those things are good. I'd also observe that I'm not aware exactly of these consistency rules, but it seems to me that we do have a comprehensive land use plan in this county, and I'm not sure whose plan that is or who would speak for to the commissioners on their behalf as sort of staff to that plan. But I hope that somewhere along the line, if it's only in the matter of population projections, if your approval here has anything to do also with population projections on that land, it seems to me that the county's development department also ought to be taking a look at this, separate from the engineer or the health department or something, because as I've observed in another Ohio EPA matter, 2 things. One, some things with the Ohio EPA are what we used to call a camel with its nose in the tent. Once you get a camel's nose in a tent, you eventually have the whole camel there. And if you say, we give approval to plan for this, eventually things get momentum without necessarily you having another chance to look at it, and it seems like you've endorsed a course of action that you really didn't have, a thorough chance to weigh in on. The second thing I observe about the Ohio EPA and NOACA's relationship with them, which is not as strong as it is with the transportation authorities in the state of Ohio and the federal, that there's a difference between federal EPA and state that doesn't happen at the same extent with the federal and state transportation offices, that Ohio EPA at some point will also tell you what it is they don't consider in their review. They'll permit something because it's scientifically feasible and that all of the protocols for ensuring no greater pollution or something are being met, but they won't say whether anybody really wants it, and they won't talk about who pays for it or how. Those questions, EPA will sign off as to its technical merit, but they don't send their budget people after these things to see if anybody can actually pay for it. That's certainly what's happened with Superfund, and that's what everybody's found out later, is that everybody could say what needed to be done to clean something up, but nobody had any idea what it was going to cost or what the sort of risk management was going to be on in terms of undertaking those projects. So I wouldn't speak in favor of anything here, and certainly not in favor of a roadblock, and I wouldn't call not taking action on it today delay. But I endorse everything that says the commissioners do have the possibility and maybe the responsibility to see that all resources in the county that should have at least some study on this and a chance to look at it and consider its impact in light of a whole lot of other plans that the commissioners are familiar with and that LORCO may not be. And use that as the opportunity for the commissioners in its agreement with LORCO to take on some of take the time that you've got. I encourage all of that. Thank you.
Maybe this is just a little backwards. Maybe Loracle should be doing the studying. They have engineers there. Maybe they should be having someone there answer all those questions and then come back to us and ask us to approve or disapprove. I think it's a little bit backwards. They're coming to us, asking us to just approve whatever, a preliminary study, and then they're going to make the final decision on it. Yes, Mr. O'Toole, can you answer that? Is this backwards?
State that again,
I
Mrs.
think,
Hussey.
I think it's a little bit backwards. I think they're coming to us prematurely. I think that they have the engineers down there that should be studying the questions that our sanitary engineers presenting, and the questions and they should hear from the public. They should be questioning the $9,100 and all the fees and where the rest
Who
of
are
the
you
lines
referring
could go.
to specifically?
NOACA. And then they should come to us after and ask for our approval.
As I understand it, maybe Mrs. Blair can clarify this if I'm wrong, but as I understand NOACA's role in this, they have a role that is defined by Ohio EPA. Ohio EPA is the one that will actually rule on this plan as to whether or not in their mind it's feasible or not. But one of the things that they ask is for NOACA to determine whether this plan is consistent with the 208 water quality plan. And that's NOACA's role. And that's what NOACA is trying to do here. And I'm not sure that means that NOACA has to evaluate the engineering and determine whether or not one size of pipe is better than another or one type of system is better than another. I think Mrs. Blair mentioned the items that were reviewed there last Tuesday. One was affordability, one was the population figures used, and a number of the other things that she mentioned. Those are the things that NOACA is asked by Ohio EPA to use in their consistency review. So I mean, that's as I understand it. Maybe that's not completely right, Mrs. Blair. I'm not sure. I think that's the way it's supposed to work.
I believe that what you said is true, and NOACA's role is as a metropolitan planning organization, and they are charged with the preparation of the clean water plan that was done with a lot of study and input a year or so ago, and that involves the consistency with the 208 issues.
Yeah, and I think, again, all that NOACA has asked, and again, it was news to all of us in that room last Tuesday, that they put this burden on you to evaluate whether or not this preliminary plan is in compliance with the joint agreement we have. And I think that, in my conversations with Mr. Beaker, I think that's all they're seeking.
Sure, because all we're getting is a copy of the plan, but we don't have a copy of the 208 plan. We have a copy of your plan.
Right. I can assure you that the issues that apparently Katie McCartney on the sanitary engineers' behalf has identified, we will certainly, once we see them, have them evaluated and responded to by our engineer anyhow. But I don't know where that fits into this whole process other than our commitment to address the issues that have been brought up here today in every way that we possibly can.
Personally, I would prefer to send the message to NOACA that we won't take a position on this. They have a responsibility. They have to take the position, and they have to address it.
I would just go back to what I thought I said in the beginning when I asked Jerry for his input. We have an agreement, I don't know what you want to call it, but it was a mutual agreement that was approved by the Lorain Board and the Lorain County Board of Commissioners, and it was about who would have authority in specific areas for sewer planning. And in those joint areas, we've agreed to do a few things. That's in a layman's language. And I believe that Lorco is here today because that agreement was forwarded to NOACA, and NOACA is aware of that agreement. And this is they're giving the commissioners an opportunity to say whatever it is we have to say. Am I making sense, Jerry? Is that a sensible synopsis?
Yes, and to defend NOACA a little bit, we we created a new animal here with this joint district. So yeah, I think it was a clever idea, but whenever you come up with new solutions to something, it creates new problems because nobody knows exactly how this works. So in their defense, they aren't quite sure as to how this is supposed to proceed because they have no history or nothing else to look at. If you don't respond at all, then you have no input, and I don't know. I believe the commissioner should respond in some fashion. If you don't respond at all, then what these people have brought in may not ever get conveyed. So at least to that extent, I think we should
So what would be appropriate?
respond. Well, I would suggest three options. If you believe you've been presented with information that indicates to you that this does not meet the consistency review tests, then I think you need to say that.
Okay, that's option one.
If you believe it clearly does and you don't have any concerns, then that's your second option, to just say, yes, we agree this meets the consistency review, and stop there. I've proposed a third alternative of saying we think it meets the technical requirements of the consistency review, but nevertheless we have some issues and concerns that we want to pass on to NOACA so that it can pass them on to EPA.
You mean
I
like
think that-
unresolved concerns? Would that be appropriate?
I think that's what we want, is number 3.
Well, no, unresolved.
Yes.
I like the word unresolved.
We'll add that to it.
But how do we know? I mean, that's just so vague. I mean, anything can be taken with that. I mean, are we going to, all three of us put together our own personal concerns? Or, I mean,
Mr.
this
Alton.
thing's so vague and wide open, anything could be taken out of context or what have you, you know? That's what I'm afraid of.
You know, from my perspective, again, I think you've got some very good advice from Jerry, and even the third alternative, your adoption of it, again, for me, this is really simple. From my perspective, you entered into, as Mrs. Blair has indicated, an agreement with Lorco that basically says, Lorco is responsible for the application. The county isn't going to do anything in terms of costs, et cetera. There's no effect. All we want to do is we are enjoying a co-status as a 208 designated management agency under the Clean Water Act, which everybody knows has been violated by every regulatory agency in the United States. It's what led us to a solution rather than facing this in federal court. All NOACA did last week is said, okay, Lorco sent this stuff into the Ohio EPA. It's a preliminary application. They shipped it over to us because we have some requirements that we have to do. Is it okay with the county that we look at this? I mean, it's just as simple as that, I think. And the language, I mean, I think you can express all of your concerns. You can attach letters. You can put Mr. Carney's questions and concerns. All of the comments that came up here today, I think, are part of this ongoing process. But I think what NOACA is asking for is it okay with the county as part of this joint cooperation agreement that we, NOACA, look at this. That's how I perceive in basic form what they asked last week. Not for your blessing, not for your endorsement, not for your approval. I mean, it's just as simple as that. And I think the third alternative that Jerry mentioned, while it's not ideal, it puts that back in their shoes and allows them to then do whatever the evaluation and consistency reviews and consider whatever information might be appropriate. It puts it back where we all, I think, in this room agree it belongs from the standpoint of what they have to do as part of this long process, this 2-year process or however long it's going to drag out. And I think not to do that violates the joint cooperation agreement which we entered into and further delays the eventual compliance with the Clean Water Act. So I would really, on behalf of the board that I represent, urge you to adopt a resolution that sends us back to NOACA and allows them to proceed with their reviews as they're mandated to do under state and federal law.
So is it your opinion that Jerry's third option would cover that?
I think it would. I don't think it's ideal, but yeah, I think it would. I think Jerry's giving you some good advice here, and I think that would do it. I think the resolution that Jerry originally drafted, does not in any way, shape, or form say that you're endorsing, approving, or blessing the preliminary plan or application that has been submitted. It just allows NOACA to get on with this review and to take input from all of the various sources which they would have available to them. And then, in turn, enables the Ohio EPA to even do further in-depth analysis of all of the issues which have been presented here today, and some that perhaps haven't even been thought of yet. Thank you.
Okay, I would move to approve Jerry's third alternative and to reword the resolution to state the alternative that Jerry gave us, the third alternative. And you have that on tape so you can play it back.
Do I support that motion?
David Ashenhurst, may I just make...
Excuse me, you're out of order.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Would you repeat the motion that was made, Roxanne, please?
We use Mr. Ennis's draft resolution, but add his third option, would state that we have no specific objections regarding the consistency rule, but do have some concerns, unresolved concerns that were raised, and hope that they will be addressed.
But I just think we need to enumerate those concerns.
Yes, and maybe as a suggestion, what could happen is during this next week, each of the commissioners could review their notes as to what matters they think should be raised as a concern. And then next week we could decide whether you want to list every concern that each commissioner has or just those concerns that two commissioners support. And then that'll give Roxanne about 35 seconds to type it up and get it out.
She's very speedy, you know.
No, but that if I understand, that would be, what, the 6th, and that would give us time to get it to NOACA by the 12th.
So I guess I kind of got lost in the discussion here.
So we're adding to this resolution?
Yes.
That's what
Well, I
No, my motion was to reword the resolution to include what our Jerry's option number 3, so that the resolution states it more or less like Jerry stated in option 3.
And I'm sorry, but I wanted to expand upon that. Are we going to enumerate? And is it your understanding that if we pass this resolution, then you're going to enumerate? Or are you suggesting that you enumerate and bring us back a document for us to approve next week?
Did we have a second yet?
No.
Okay, well, I see a reluctance to second it, so I was throwing out an alternative. If you want to wait a week, try to compile. We can do it either way, pass the resolution today and compile the list for next week, or wait and everybody compile their list and come back next week and try and pass the resolution all at once.
So this resolution will include our concerns.
That's what he's recommending, that we do.
Yes.
That we do nothing today, and that we work on a resolution that can be passed next week. That's what you're recommending.
So there's
Thank
two
you.
options of doing it.
Right.
I would prefer to wait to see something in writing that we need to all participate in.
Okay, but I would like a resolution made up, as I suggested.
I'll work
To
on
include-
I'll work on the body of tweaking the main resolution.
And then include all
Commissioners
the concerns.
I'm not going to write the concerns, commissioners. You need to come up with a list of your concerns.
Well, I think the one concern, which is I think Lorain needs a copy of the report we received this morning. So I think Lorain needs a copy of this. So if you guys can grab it before you leave, and get back to us real quick on that.
And I think the concerns are also the tap-in fees and the monthly charges.
Well,
The number of homes that are in the area, those are all concerns that should be addressed.
I would
It's the only
suggest each of
concern I
you start jotting those down, and we'll compile that list for next week.
My three are on the record for the tap-in fees, the monthly charge, the number of homes, and how this will be assessed. And that the residents also have input.
Well, I don't know how we can do that in a week. I'd like to have all
Well-
1,200 people contacted, but I don't see that happening in a week.
No, those are the concerns we're going to
Well, that's
pass
a
on to
concern
NOACA.
that's a concern I have. So, that the 1,264 people will be at least a chance to decide on their own.
I guess you could call it the front footage cost, but that's not what it's being
I know.
called. It's
Well,
tap-in fees.
so I guess we're not going to have a motion today then? It'll die for a second?
Right.
Okay. Do you want to schedule time for next week to discuss this, since everybody came here? Would you rather have an agreed upon time, since a lot of people came this week? I think it'd be fair.
I think we should set them on, put it on the
10:15?
agenda.
10:15 for next week?
Roxanne's looking at her calendar.
There's
see
a
if it-
public hearing at 10:30.
This will only take 10 minutes.
What is the public hearing?
Kidding.
That Rolling Brook subdivision,
Excuse me?
the Rolling Brook subdivision, the detention basin, that shouldn't take long.
That shouldn't take long, so
10 minutes.
10:45? 10:45, is that okay, commissioners?
It's good with
That's
me.
fine with me. So we're going to, I guess the consensus is that we're going to continue this discussion until next Thursday at 10:45.
Yes. Did
Ken,
everyone hear that?
could you get a copy to these guys for Lorco of what you gave it? Okay, got it? Okay.
The discussion regarding Lorco and this issue will be heard again next week at 10:45.
Thank you, everybody who came in.
Did you have something to say?
Something very small. I would just observe that there is a fourth alternative as well, which is to say, we have not yet had time we make no opinion at this time on whether it meets the consistency provisions or not. But we have no problem with NOACA looking at it. I mean, it just seems to me that at least the way that third alternative is worded that says that we are confirming that it meets with the consistency provisions is just what you don't have to say, even though if, as the last gentleman said, it's just to say, can NOACA look at it, the answer would be yes. And I would also respectfully suggest we are not trying to do, people who do have some concerns about this are not trying to delay our compliance with the Water Quality Act.
Oh, yes, that's good to add that.
Commissioner, while we're talking about
Did you get that?
sewer issues,
Delay the action.
we have a bit of good news. As you know, we've been working for some time on getting a agreement with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District over in Columbia Township, and I'm pleased to tell you that at their last board meeting, they passed a... Want to take that meeting outside?
I think they might like to hear what you're saying, though. Gentlemen, before you leave, I think you want to hear what Jim's saying. I think it's pertinent to the future of Lorain County.
The Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District has agreed to allow sewage flow from Columbia Township with the plan that was outlined by Mr. Carney and his engineers. I believe the agreement's on its way to Mr. Ennis for the dotting of the i's and crossing of the t's. But the resolution of intent and the resolution of agreement was passed by Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District at their last meeting. So we have clarified the issue with regard to Columbia Township, and that's something we're working on for a while, so I'm pleased to let you know that. Just one more issue that we're dealing with. So
Thank you.
that should be coming to you, Jerry, very shortly. We look very pleased.
Okay. Madam Clerk,
Old business?
I have none.
I have no old business.
No, I don't have any. There's just two on there. We're going to talk about those two, or are we just skipping over that?
No, I was going to see if you had anything first.
Oh, okay.
Item number 1, our old business. Award tire contract for tire disposal in Lorain County to Delivery Tire Service of Ohio LLC, Grove City, Ohio, for the year 2003, with an option to for years 2004 and 2005. Cost proposal for the one-day collection event will be $143 per ton, and for the permanent drop-off sites, $118 per ton. This was the only bid received. Mr. Billman, Solid Waste Management Director, has reviewed and recommends approval.
I got a nice letter from Dan this morning. And I guess Dan doesn't want to walk over there, so I'll talk to you over there, Dan. Now, per my request, he's drafted this proposal for control of the commercial tires infiltrating or tire sites. I guess what I was referring to is not commercial tires, but commercial companies dumping tires on our sites, which is, you put in highlights, bringing more than 8 tires and other violations of the rule. It says here that you found that we can pay $70 per site to RSVP, which is, what's that stand?
Retired Senior Volunteer Program.
Okay, because you're working with Pat Littleton at the Office on Aging for that.
That's correct.
So you can get about 36 to 40 people, it looks like, to help you with this project.
If there's 18 sites, there would be one person per site.
Oh, one person per site?
That's correct.
You're going to supply them with forms and a camera to document people who come in more than 8 tires or frequent the site more than once?
That's correct.
Okay, and somebody told me that there was a memo sent to the townships regarding rims on tires, that it was allowable to have rims on tires when they drop them off. Is that true or not?
That was last year's
Was it?
plan,
Uh-huh.
and we're reevaluating that at this time because commissioners have an argument that we shouldn't be doing that. So we're looking into that, and we'll get back to you at another date if you'd like.
Okay, so you'd rather have this hold then until you get back to us?
No, I think...
Oh, okay, then what do you think? Do you want to have should we discuss whether or not rims should be on tires right now? Would that help you out?
You can, if you want to
Okay.
ask me why rims
No, I just
may or
asked.
may not be utilized. I mean, in its collection, I'll discuss that with you.
I have an issue with rims on tires. I don't know, how the commissioners feel?
I do too, because what I feel is those rims add to the tonnage cost, and then those companies turn around, take those rims off, and then go sell them again, so we're paying them twice.
That's
They're actually benefiting off of our backs
Okay.
twice.
Commissioner Blair, do you have could care less one way or the other?
Oh, I really care.
Or? Okay, well, I didn't know.
I'd be more interested in finalizing the terms of the agreement. I
Right.
did not,
Okay,
does
well,
it cause a problem to have a specification that the tires be off the rims? Does that cause a problem with what you're presenting to us for a contract?
No, the issue is twofold. If you take the tires with the rims on them, we won't find them discarded along the roadway or in a little dump off of another piece of abandoned property.
You're speaking about the rims then? In other words, people
Yeah.
might dump the tire but leave the rim?
No, they'll take, because people will be charged for the rim being taken off the tire from a service station or a tire dealer. It's going to cost them probably about $2, $2.50, $3 to get the rim taken off the tire.
or $1.
So if you require that, then they're going to just discard the tire rather than us accepting the tire at the site. With the rim being on the tire, there is no haven for mosquitoes or anything like that. So you can make an argument that we shouldn't be taking them because it's not a health hazard. And that's one of the main reasons that we collect tires in this county and around the state, is to make sure that we don't have a tire buildup and make it a health hazard. And at this point in time, I think we've done a very good job of that.
Yeah, we're #1 in the state. And that's something I'm not too proud of. So I tell you what I'm willing to do. I'm not willing to approve this contract today the way it's written. I'm not willing to support with options for years 2004 and 2005. Is that going to be any issues with the way we did the RFP, Jerry, or not? I mean, do you think?
If I understand your question,
This is asking
I
us
don't think it will.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if it would. If we can just approve it for 2003 and then revisit this next year and try it without rims, that's how I would feel. Try it with people on the sites, documenting if there is any commercial dumping, and I think you have a nice long history of collecting tires for the last couple of years. I think this would be a nice way to find out in '03 what's really going on.
I think it has to be twofold, the commercial and also that they're county residents that are dumping those tires. So you
Well-
have to identify, somehow identify that these citizens that are dumping those tires are county residents and that they're not commercial tires. And I think by using the driver's license method is the way to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm not too concerned about that as I am with, if they're only allowed 8 tires per day for the one-day collection, they can check their plates and see if they're from out of county or not. I'm not too concerned about people coming. I don't think for 8 tires people are going to keep coming back and forth from outside the county. I'm more concerned about semi-trucks showing up and dumping tons of tires. If some guy lives in Huron County and sees that we have one, I don't see what a big deal is if they're dropping off a couple of tires. My main concern here is to take us from being the #1 county in tire recycling and maybe bring us down a few notches because everyone's abusing a system that you admitted a couple weeks ago that's being abused. So let's stop the abuse. Let's see what's going on, and I think it'd be a great experiment for Liberty to do this on this year only without rims and see what we actually do collect.
Well, I do have a concern, though, with out-of-county people dumping at our sites when it's coming out of our county fund. I mean, it's our solid waste fund, Lorain County. Why should we be taking tires from another county? And pretty soon that county won't have to pay for anybody to dump their tires. They can just come to Lorain County, all their residents, send them here, and we'll pay for it. No, I think that our county, we should identify county residents.
And I would have to agree with you, Commissioner. It's a double-edged sword. Once they're in our county, where are they going to dump the tires if we refuse to take them? And we've had that in the past. I think it's happened that person has been told that they can't bring the tires in. They're already there at the site, okay? And then they leave the site because they can't leave the tires there, and then we find them on our county roads. I think that with these people checking the driver's license and the plate, every plate has our county number on it, which is 47, except for commercial vehicles. Now, the commercial vehicles, that's a different story, but I think that this is a step in the right direction, utilizing the seniors in documentation and then letting the health department and EPA follow through with the documentation if we find violations. But I'm not so certain that we really want to discourage, once they're there on site, not leaving them there. It may cost us a little bit extra money at the collection, but it'll save money for the cities and the townships from picking them up on the roads.
Well, I think I got a call from the same gentleman that Commissioner Moore did, and he said it's just like the white goods. He said, no matter, it's just a thing that there's only one day collection in the county. And he said, we're always picking up tires, we're always picking up refrigerators and different appliances out of our ditches and creeks, too. It's because we don't have enough, it's only a one-day thing, and people aren't going to set these things in their garage for a year. And that seems to be the problem more than dumping after they leave the site now.
I think Dan made it clear that there is some abuses. People pay
Yeah,
a buck
there
to
is.
collect a tire, and these small business owners end up hanging on to them and not knowing what to do. And when this day opens, I think, who knows? You said there's abuses. Let's find out. I'm only concerned about that issue of semi-trucks and pickup trucks full of tires coming in. So if we could, I would prefer if we did a motion to add this letter as part of the motion, which explains how we're going to be monitoring the sites. So that's how I'd like to prove it, without years 2004, without any options on 04, 05, because I think we're going to have to revisit this issue after you give us what the numbers and what the actual collections were.
I would like to answer Mary Jo's statement about the tire dumping because we only have one day pickup. We have 4 sites permanent sites around the county, and we have phone calls all the time that relate to, well, where can I get rid of these tires? Well, then we ask them where they are from, like if they're in North Ridgeville, we will give them where the site is so they can drop off the tires. And that goes on all year long. So,
Well, how do we control that?
excuse me?
How do we control that? Is that unsupervised dumping?
That, well, normally the people that have them on their site, like North Ridgeville, they'll have a trailer back there and they kind of supervise it, but they don't have enough money or time to supervise it all the time. They watch the comings and goings, and
So can you
they're
monitor
supposed to
which
monitor.
site, how much tires come in on each site? I mean,
Excuse me?
this should be able to give us the ability of how much is being dumped at each site, correct?
That is correct.
And do you have that numbers already, or that's never been done yet?
No, I have the numbers on the permanent sites, yes, I do.
You do have the
I don't have
numbers?
them here today, but I do have the numbers.
Yeah, I'd like to see those.
Okay.
So are you making a motion, Commissioner Moore?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to award tire contract for tire disposal in Lorain County Liberty Tire Service of Ohio LLC, Grove City, Ohio, for the year 2003 only. Cost proposal for the one-day collection event will be $143 per ton, and for the permanent drop-off sites, $118 per ton. This is only for tires only, no rims. This was the only bid received. And I'd like to also add on a memo dated today, February 27th, from Dan Billman, advising the commissioners on how we're going to audit those sites. So that's my motion.
And how was that?
Using Pat Littleton's office, and they have volunteers that are going to be there.
$70 each?
Yeah.
But are you going to take the license plates, Dan, or the
They're gonna be
driver's
taking,
license?
they'll be taking pictures.
We'll be taking pictures, and on the people that are violating the provisions, we will take pictures of the tires, okay? It's my inclination to, if it's not a flagrant violation, which we would probably turn away, like Commissioner Moore said, if it was a semi showed up, there's no way we're going to take a semi-loaded tires. But what these people do is bring in 2 or 3 little pickup trucks, so we would want their driver's license plus the picture of the vehicle with the license plate number.
It says so in the letter. Finish
Yeah.
the letter, what he'll do with the information.
The information will then be forwarded to 3 health departments in the Ohio EPA for further appropriate action. That's in the letter. That's why I just thought we'd attach it to the letter. Or attach the letter to the resolution. Do you have issues with that, or what?
You can take all the pictures you want, but unless there's going to be some, what is the health department who send somebody out to put them into a frenzy?
Sure.
Okay, so do nothing.
I don't want to spend this money and take all
What
the
is it,
pictures.
$70? Come on, 70 bucks a person?
At the end of the day, what we've accomplished is have got a bunch of pictures of people putting tires there.
Well, like I said, that's, hey, at the end of the day, we're spending $338,000 on carpeting, so this is at least one way to stop some abuses in the county using solid waste funds.
I just
So
want
I'll
to say,
support that.
you
know?
did say abuses, but I want to say that when we had this discussion a couple weeks ago, I termed the phrase alleged abuse, okay? And I would
Well, he
prefer...
used, yeah, but he used
Well,
the word abuse. So I'm using
in
it.
my discussion, I'm going to use the word alleged,
Alleged,
okay?
I was just
I
quoting
just
our-
want to clarify
I was just
that.
quoting our director.
Well, and I'm upgrading what he said to comply with terminology I would
Okay.
like to use.
Okay.
Thank you,
And I
Commissioner
will
Moore.
second that motion.
Any more discussion? Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
No, because I will not assist EPA in their efforts to create a monopoly and price fix.
Thanks, Dan.
Item number 2, resolution to formalize the Board of Commissioners' existing practice as adopted by resolution number 02-452, adopted June 6, 2002, which states that the Board of Commissioners can only take action, set policy, issue directives, or assign projects as a board, meaning that the support of at least 2 commissioners is required to take any action, such action, and 1 commissioner acting alone lacks the authority to do so. This resolution supersedes Robert's Rules of Order for one particular purpose, for our particular purpose.
Did you ever get,
Okay.
I missed last Thursday's meeting. Did you get back to commissioners at that meeting?
Madam Chair.
No, I
In
have,
response to Commissioner Moore's question to the Assistant Prosecutor, I'll answer for him. How's that? Since I was the author of this letter, and we had a healthy discussion about how the Board of Commissioners operates. Mr. Ennis was asked to respond to us and formalize his comments, which he did. That's the letter, I think. Isn't that what you did, Jerry?
Yes, Commissioner.
You did a very nice job, and I want to thank you for that, in between all the other things that you've had to do this last week, plus having rotten tomatoes thrown at you. You have not had a chance to read this. I think it'd be a good idea if you would read it. I think it's, and it's available for anybody in the audience who would like to see it.
Okay.
I'm making a statement. I'm not doing anything else.
You can
Okay,
keep moving.
new business. This is just a reminder that the Lorain County Fair Housing Board will meet on Thursday, March 6, 2003, at 5 p.m. at the Lorain County Community Development Office. That's at 216 3rd Street, Elyria, Ohio. Any other new business?
I have none.
I have
None.
Board
I
correspondence?
move the reading be waived.
Second?
Mrs. Blair?
No discussion?
Discussion?
Yes. We received a letter from number 5 on the board business from Michael Barth. It looks like they kind of have a little emergency for $2,800. I mean, should we advise, should we get that money over to them? Looks like they have some issues.
We discussed that last week.
I missed that. I heard a lot about it.
Oh.
Getting a lot of emails, so I just thought, what's the pledge of the board? Would you guys like to, could we make a motion for that, or do you guys just want to deal with it next week? It looked like it was more of an emergency letter.
I think if we're going to give them $2,600, wasn't there a letter stating that they wanted us to pay rent for the FBO?
But we already did that, so.
No?
We already
Did we
did what?
address that?
Yeah, we paid them all that rent money 2 weeks ago, and we gave them $150,000. That included other rent.
Excuse me,
Well, apparently
Commissioner
they
Moore,
don't.
did they know that?
They will know it now.
Did you ever take the Dale Carnegie course, How to Win Friends and Influence People?
I don't know, but I can see my polls are really going down.
That just made this whole meeting worthwhile.
Hey, as far as I'm concerned, they need looks like they need $2,800, and if they have issues with rent money, they can take it out of the money we give them, so. I just think as a board, if they need the money right away, if we wait another week, I mean, it's pretty cold out there, and,
They've already paid.
oh, they already paid this? Oh,
The
okay.
repairs and so forth
Well, no,
have
that's
been
okay,
done.
then they just need some money allocated to them, then they can go through the regular process and wait till it shows up on the proper channel. I just saw the letter and thought maybe we needed to deal with it today.
Well, I think it's kind of early in the year. Can't they transfer some? Didn't we give them a hefty little sum there?
Well, their operating expenses are significantly greater in the colder months than they are in the warmer months, and we gave them a 50% allocation, correct, Mr. Rokusi, to get for their first allocation. That's been done, right?
That's been done, they picked it up.
Okay, no, as long as they got the money, I thought they couldn't do anything without us, so it sounds like
Well,
everything's already going.
They're indicating that this is an FBO expense, though. Remember, the allocation we gave was an airport expense.
I know, I think we're still waiting for some answers. You're still working on some issues.
Yes, sir, I am. For your
Probably about
instruction.
another month, we should be ready.
There's been some sticking points.
I know, but the boxing match can wait about a month, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which one?
Oh, I'm sure we'll see soon.
Why, there's more than one.
Oh, there's always. Okay, sorry, that was the only discussion point. Thanks.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Public comment?
Is there anyone here that would like to address the board? Dave? Please state your name and spell your last name.
My name is Dave Keener, Keener. I am the Computer Systems Manager for the Lorain County Recorder's Office. I would ask the board for some clarification on item 141 on the travel requisitions regarding some training that our office is needing to help satisfy some of our budgetary requirements this year and saving some money. And I was interested to know if that particular requisition was denied, travel request was denied, and I was interested to know if there was reasoning behind that.
Colorado Springs.
Cancel that. Sorry about that, Dave. We had a 12:30 appointment. I was just telling someone to call and cancel it for us, so.
What are you saying that this training was needed? Why is it needed?
Well, basically, over the past 4 years, we've contracted with a company out of Akron that has provided our computer system support for our optical imaging system. And we were able to figure out this year, or actually in mid-December, that the company that actually had written the software for us was able to continue to provide us support at basically a $12,000 a year savings versus what we were paying the company in Akron, who was not certified to support that system. But because the system has aged, there was nobody else around besides that company in Akron that we knew of that would support it. So we've now wanted to go back to the original company who engineered the program and buy our support through them and save the county $12,000 a year in support costs.
I think I'm missing something, Dave. Why is the training necessary? Why do you need to be trained to do this if you have a company that's doing it?
I can understand that. The company usually works its support contracts through a business solutions provider. There is no business solutions provider located in the state of Ohio for this company. The company has come to a compromise with the county recorder's office to allow them to receive direct support from that company if they would have on-site personnel who was trained and certified in their software systems.
Okay, Dave, is there any guarantee that after you're trained and there's no other company in what area, state of Ohio?
Correct.
Okay, that you just won't leave the county and go out on your own and
Well, we have addressed that issue, and myself, the county recorder, the chief deputy, have sat down and drafted a sort of a binding contract stating that in no less than a year's time from the last date of the class, which is March 14th of 2003, that I would not terminate my position as that person who was trained and certified in that software. If I would terminate that position, I would have to pay back the course fee combined with the $175 for the meals, and I would have to forward that money back to the county.
Not to be morbid here, but is there anything in the contract if you're hit by a bus?
In that unfortunate incident, I'm sure we would have to find some other contingency.
Well, that's what, to be serious, so that's our concern is, is the one person having all the information. And,
if the commissioners would like to send someone else out with me for the cost of the class, I could take someone else out and get them trained as well, but time is of the essence in this. Our contract with CASNet expired December 31st. As I said, we were paying them $32,000 a year to support our imaging system. The new contract from Optica, they've been granting us some grace time here, was effective January 31st, and they have stated, and it is a stipulation of their contract, that someone be trained on site in order for us to receive the $20,000 a year contract from them to save the office some money in that area.
Okay, Dave, I addressed the issue about you leaving the county,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
in the meantime, you could stay with the county and still take side jobs, right?
I don't believe so. That's not an area that I'm interested in proceeding with.
I know we have your word for it now, but after you're trained, that could be very tempting on your part. No offense, but it could be. I mean, you're only human.
I think he's busy being a firefighter. You're also a volunteer, right? So
Yes, sir.
I think you have more than enough time.
I really don't have a whole lot of time after I leave here at 4:30, but that's basically where we're coming from. I mean, anytime you send someone to training and you're paying for them to be trained, are you taking some sort of risk? Absolutely, you're taking some sort of risk that they could go off somewhere else and use that training that you've provided them to do side work or whatever, or if they leave the job. That is not the intention here. The intention here is to save money for our office that has already, been having a hard time with the budgetary issues this year. We would like to be able to save that extra $12,000 and be able to put forth into some other venture that the county recorder would like to do. I'm not sure if there is one right now, but
Is this training going to lead to the request for additional new digital imagery equipment?
at some point it may. It is not required. We are looking at doing some upgrading this year of the imaging system. It is not written anywhere in any contract that we are required to upgrade. We do have intentions of proceeding with an upgrade at some point.
Is there any thinking to some symmetry to the digital imaging system at Human Services, the Record Center, Probate Court, and the Recorder's Office? It seems to me it doesn't make a lot of sense that we have all these individualized systems with individualized maintenance contracts and different software and hardware configurations. Has there been given any thought to people sitting down and working on a combined package that would bring those all into alignment with each other so we can share resources and consolidate maintenance and contracts and upgrades?
Actually, we have given some thought to that, and we have inquired on using an imaging system that was compatible with what's currently at the Record Center, and that would set the county back about $130,000 just in the software fees to get that kind of software. Just for the Recorder's Office, that doesn't cover what would have to change at the Record Center. We also would like to note that the software fees to stay with the company that we currently have, Optic Imaging Systems, is $9,000. $9,000 versus $130,000. I would tend to choose the $9,000 and stay with the company that's already established here.
Is there going to come a time when we're going to look at, is that going to be when we do upgrades? And I'm not specifically talking to you because we're all kind of a little bit guilty of marching in different directions, David.
Sure.
Is there going to come a time when we're all going to stop marching in different directions and try to get on board with one centralized direction with regard to these issues?
Personally, as a computer manager, I would like to see people combine some information together, but in speaking for the office, I don't know Ms. Jameson's personal opinions on what she wants to do with that. That's specifically her call as far as mending data or blending systems together. I can make recommendations to her, but I cannot speak to answer that, give a yes or no.
Okay.
I would just ask that be looked at, maybe rescinded, and like I said, time is of the essence. Payment would have to be made to them prior to that class starting, which starts on the 10th of March. I'd like to maybe see that get readdressed, if that's possible.
That was...
Can I add something to this? Jeanette Bazzoki, Chief Deputy Recorder. One of the commissioners asked if David was going to be the only one that would know this imaging process. When he comes back, I'm sure that someone from the office would be trained also. So it wouldn't be like if he ever left, like after a year's time, there would be nobody there, that we would have to send someone back there to learn it. Okay?
Well, I guess, David, you're asking that the board reconsider travel request number 141-03
Yes, ma'am.
in the amount of $1,975.
Yes, ma'am.
I did speak to the administrator about this yesterday. I also tried to call Ernie Smith, and he was not available. So, but Ernie has sent an email to Jim, which was shared with the commissioners there. I'll make a motion to approve the request as presented. You can die for lack of a second if no one's interested.
Your support for that motion?
Apparently not.
Motion will die for lack of a second.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay, thank you. I'd move to recess into executive session.
Second.
Mrs. Vacy?
All right.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
My book's numbered. I got to go to the